Hi, my name is Nanda, and let me tell you a story of my online teaching journey. It was March 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic came, and we were so unprepared for all the changes in our educational system. The schools were closed, we couldn't see our students directly like we used to do. We were panicked and confused. We were lost and questioned. How can we do this kind of teaching learning activity? We were suggested to have asynchronous learning, give the students material in Google Classroom, give them the assignments so they can get their score for the report, and so on. And I personally found it ineffective. I was up until midnight to prepare videos for the students on the next day. I also made some worksheets for assignments to check their understanding about the materials I had shared, but it turned out that many students submitted the assignments late and answered the worksheets carelessly. I also tried to explain the materials by myself through Google Meet, but still, I couldn't get engaged with the students. So I can say that the first 3 months of the pandemic and lockdown was a chaos. I found it awkward to see myself on the screen in front of the camera talking to students who didn't open their cameras. Then it came to the new academic year of 2020 and 2021. I still tried to figure out how I can get engaged with the students, so I bought an iPad to help me giving explanation in the class. Since I'm a type of person who likes to write things on the board while explaining, I use the iPad to write my explanation in the form of mind map. By using this kind of activity, for some students who could catch up with the learning process, it was helpful and more engaging because they were waiting for the explanation to be written on the screen. But for other students, they found it was just so-so. So in the 2021 to 2022 academic year, when we were got used to things called as distance learning, I figured out something. I knew that the students tended to turn their camera off when I shared my screen. So I tried to call some of them one by one to check whether they still got engaged with my teaching learning process. But sometimes I got tired of it. And one day, the training division of my institution gave us a workshop about how to get engaged with the students during the synchronous learning. The workshop was delivered by one of online learning institutions, and they gave us some insight that we could employ a feature in Zoom meeting called annotation. I got myself so interested in this feature that I made a research entitled The Effects of Implementing Active Learning on High School Students' Participation in English Online Class. I have presented this research in International Language and Language Teaching Conference held by Sanata Dharma University in October 2022, and it was published in its proceedings. Using the annotation feature in Zoom meeting, I did some things such as brainstorming, interactive lecture, and large group discussion. In the brainstorming session, I gave them a question with a blank page slide on the screen. I asked them to answer the questions by writing it on the screen using the annotation feature. There, I could see who answered the question and gave them feedback on their answers. In other occasion, I told the students to watch a video first before joining my class on the next day. Then, in the beginning of our meeting, I gave them a blank page slide again and asked them to fill in the boxes provided on the screen. For the interactive lecture, I provided some questions to be answered after they did an activity. As an example, this one is from our reading session. After I asked them to read a passage, I told them to answer questions by annotating the screen. It was a blended learning, so there were some students who were in the class and the rest were at home. So some students answer it by writing their answers on my iPad, and the rest will annotate their screens on the Zoom meeting. Besides using the annotation, I also use Padlet to have a large group discussion. One day, I invited the students to watch an animated short film which had no conversation and asked them to write the summary and impression on that film. They could write their answers anonymously and express themselves through GIFs. I also sometimes divided the students into groups using breakout rooms. The students were given time to discuss a worksheet or questions I asked them. When they turned to the main room, I asked them to present their discussion's result. Then I asked the students whether these kind of activities helped them to learn English. They gave me positive feedbacks, especially when I shared their answers in the learning material files. Some of them felt proud that they could get engaged with the learning process. Some of them gained confidence although they made mistakes while answering the questions. And some of them also felt like it was more effective to give them direct exercises than just giving them part of homeworks with no explanation. If I might conclude this talk, I would say that there would be trial and error when we are adapting to a new system. Do not be afraid of trying and do not stop learning. Teachers' assignments are not only teaching but also learning to help the students learn and to improve ourselves. Thanks for watching.